Today's top stories. President Duterte accepts the people's call to attend the turnover of the Balangiga Bells in Eastern Samar. Senators expect the proposed 2019 national budget to be passed by January next year. PDEA officials filed charges against those involved in the smuggling of 6.8 billion pesos worth of shabu. And the Agriculture Department vows to provide affordable rice from local farmers next year.
Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. President Rodrigo Duterte has agreed to attend the turnover of the Balangiga Bells to officials of Eastern Samar. Malacanang emphasizes the importance of the bells to the Filipino people. Rom Dulfo has the story.
After initially canceling his attendance at the turnover of the Balangiga Bells to Eastern Samar on Saturday, President Duterte has decided to show up due to the people's persistent requests. President Duterte earlier opted to skip the event since there were pressing matters of governance that require his immediate attention. Panelo points out, although the president considered his presence as an added attraction to the event, the actual repatriation of the church bells should be given more importance. He also reminded Filipinos that the ringing of the church bells would resonate to the world that Filipinos will always assert their sovereignty. President Duterte has yet to decide whether he will consider visiting the U.S. after the bells return. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, or PDEA, filed criminal and graft cases against 49 people who were allegedly involved in the shipment of 11 billion pesos worth of shabu in the country last August. Among these respondents in the case were former PDEA Deputy Director General Ismael Fajardo, former Philippine National Police Anti-Illegal Drugs Group Officer in Charge Eduardo Acierto, Customs Intelligence Officer Jimmy Guban, Lito Pirote, Gregor Ninot Necesario, Joseph De Mayuga, Emily Daprosa Likingan, Myra Tan. The respondents were charged with violation of the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act, the Revised Penal Code, and the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. Criminal charges were not filed against former Customs Chief Isidro La Peña due to the absence of evidence. All efforts will be exerted to ensure that the gains made in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao are sustained. Newly installed AFP Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Benjamin Madrigal said they will ensure the successful implementation of the Bangsamoro Organic Law to usher in a new area of stability and progress in the area. The Bangsamoro Organic Law plebiscite will take place on January 21st and February 6 next year. Madrigal said the pace to diminish the existence of terrorist cells and other armed spoilers of the peace will continue in order to protect people and communities from them. Madrigal replaced General Carlito Galvez Jr., his MISTA at the Philippine Military Academy class of 1985, who retired after reaching the mandatory retirement age of 56. Malacanang says Budget Secretary Benjamin Diokno still enjoys the President's trust. The House of Representatives earlier adopted a resolution seeking to reconsider Diokno's appointment amid questions on alleged insertions in the proposed 2019 national budget. The budget chief was also accused of having links to a contractor that bagged billions worth of government projects. Presidential spokesman Sal Panelo says while Congress has the power to scrutinize the budget, they could find other ways to correct irregularities apart from recommending the sacking of Diokno. He also stressed that despite Diokno's clean record, the executive branch will still investigate the allegations against him. The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, is set to deploy hijab troopers, or female Muslim soldiers, nationwide. The female soldiers is said to be initially deployed to Muslim communities in Metro Manila. They will be in charge of providing psychosocial services to Muslim residents. Colonel Romeo Bronner urges the hijab troopers to continue helping internally displaced persons and aid in the government's peace-building efforts. The hijab troopers were among those credited for the successful liberation of Marawi City. 50 of them received the Military Merit Medal for aiding women and children affected by the said conflict. 2 Filipinos were reported injured in a school bus accident in North Point, Hong Kong. And cops rescue over 100 Aita and Bajau beggars from the streets. More on these and other news around the metro from Benj Bondok.
2 Filipinos were injured in a school bus accident in North Point, Hong Kong. One of the Filipino victims was discharged from the hospital while the other victim is still undergoing treatment. Meanwhile, police rescued a total of 142 members of Indigenous Peoples in Metro Manila. These Indigenous people flocked the city to beg for alms in time for the Yuletide season. NCRPO Chief Guillermo Eleazar says almost all of those rescued, which consist of Aita and Bajau people, are in Quezon City. They aim to bring back the Aitas and Bajaus to their respective communities. In other news, no Filipino was among the fatalities of the 2 separate gun attacks in France and Brazil. The shooting at the Metropolitan Cathedral in the city of Campinas in Brazil is still under investigation. The French government has raised the risk level after declaring the shooting in Strasbourg as a terrorist attack. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondok.
Still to come, senators expect the proposed 2019 national budget to be passed by January next year. Indigenous peoples groups hail the extension of martial law in Mindanao. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
This is Secretary Martin Andanon, and you're watching
because the media center, nobody paid for. I trained the Myanmarese at one section. They got me 2 days.
We have the Office of the Global Media and International Affairs, and we are here to establish the office in Bangkok. Yeah, so we'll have one in Bangkok, Hong Kong, Singapore, of course in Manila, Japan. It's coming December 30th, Japan, and then one in Beijing.
The Senate hopes to pass the proposed 2019 national budget by January next year. This is Budget Secretary Benjamin Diokno said he would ask President Duterte to call a special session. More on this from Rom Dulfo.
Senate leaders said the proposed 2019 national budget may be passed after Congress resumes from its break on January 14. Senate President Vicente Soto III said the budget could not be passed within the year, even if President Duterte calls for special sessions due to the lack of time for amendments or a bicameral conference. Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon said even if a special session is held, it would still be the call of the Senate whether or not the budget is passed in December. Drilon said the consensus consensus in the Senate is not to rush the budget. The Senate leaders were reacting to Budget Secretary Benjamin Diokno's statement that he would ask President Duterte for a special session next week to give time for the Congress's budget approval. Economic managers have warned that a reenacted budget for next year may cause delays in infrastructure projects, job losses, and higher poverty incidents. Senate Majority Leader Juan Miguel Zubiri earlier said it would be physically impossible for the Senate to pass the budget on second and third reading on time. Zubiri has floated the idea of introducing a special provision to amend the Omnibus Election Code to exempt the 2019 capital outlay projects from the election ban. This is to ensure that projects under the Build, Build, Build program would not be affected. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
Experts are looking into the Philippines' economic growth as the country shows potential to become the second fastest growing economy in Southeast Asia. Here is our report.
The Philippines is expected to become the second fastest growing economy in Southeast Asia after Vietnam over the next few years. The Asian Development Bank said this is on the back of robust public and private investments in the country. The ADB maintained its economic growth outlook for the Philippines at 6.4% this year and 6.7% for 2019. Investments have been the biggest contributor to growth, followed by household consumption. The ADB also retained its growth forecast for Southeast Asia at 5.1% for 2018, assuming robust consumption and infrastructure investment. But the ADB also identified the escalating trade conflict as the largest downside risk in the region, even after the leaders of China and the United States agreed to a 90-day truce, preventing any tariff to allow time for bilateral negotiations. ADB Chief Economist Yasuyuki Sawada said they are keeping forecasts for the region's growth unchanged for this year, with some of the biggest economies continuing to hold up well. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Maricor Zapata.
Financial literacy in the country is seen to improve further with more Filipinos opening bank accounts and saving money. Sun Life Financial Philippines CEO Benedict Sison says increased financial literacy is the primary reason for more citizens to take insurance accounts with investments. Citing government data as of 2017, Sison said insurance penetration rate in the country remains low compared to neighboring countries such as Indonesia and Malaysia. He is optimistic that the Philippines would catch up in 5 years as industry players continue to work on making Filipinos more investment conscious. An Indigenous Peoples group hailed the extension of martial law in Mindanao as a victory for tribal communities. Datu Armando Bravo, who is the founder and executive director of Lumad Mindanao Movement for Peace and Development, says the extension is a victory for IP groups. The tribal communities are said to suffer from the atrocities of the New People's Army for a long time. Bravo said the real enemy of the tribal communities is the NPA, which he blamed for a number of human rights abuses, particularly in Bukidnon province. On December 10, Bravo and other pro-martial law advocates staged a rally in the city in observance of the International Human Rights Day. A resolution was issued by the Regional Peace and Order Council in Region 10 in support of martial law extension. Davao officials hailed the extension of martial law in Mindanao, and Antique prepares for the maiden flight of the Philippine Airlines to the province. More on these stories from the provinces from Janice Cabe.
In Davao City, government officials welcomed the extension of martial law in Mindanao, saying it would help sustain the gains in the local government's peace and development initiatives. They cited the stable peace and order situation as well as the robust business climate brought by the military security measures. They hope martial law would continue acting as a deterrent to terrorism and contribute to progress in the region. In Surigao del Sur, suspected communist rebels ambushed an Indigenous Peoples leader in Lianga town. Manobo leader Datu Jumar Bocales and his companions were attacked by armed men while on their way home. Bocales was a former New People's Army member who is vocal in opposing the presence of communist rebels in Lianga. In Antique, the Evelio B. Javier Airport is readying for the maiden flight of the Philippine Airlines on December 16. The airport stopped commercial operations for several years and was used only by private planes until the government decided to reopen it. PAL flights between Clark and Antique will initially start twice a week. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Up next, the Agriculture Department vows to provide affordable rice from local farmers next year. Soldiers in North and South Korea cross each other's borders peacefully. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Bago pa man naganap ang Marawi Siege, ang iba't ibang panig ng Marawi City ay masagana sa iba't ibang produktong pang-agrikultura, lalong-lalo na sa gulay, prutas, mais at palay. Subalit nang umatake na ang Maote ISIS group sa Marawi City, maraming mga magsasaka ang napilitang iwan at nawala ng kanilang mga lupang sakahan. Isa na rito si Ansari Palo, residente ng Kadayunan 2 Marawi City. Si Ansari ay 10 taon nang nagsasaka ng palay sa kanilang lugar at ito lamang ang pinagmumula ng pang-araw-araw na panustos sa kanyang pamilya. Sa kanyang pamamalagi sa evacuation center, hindi na kontento si Ansari sa pagtanggap lamang ng mga relief goods mula sa iba't ibang mga ahensya. Nang pinayagan ng makabalik sa kanilang lugar, ay agad rin siyang bumalik sa pagsasaka.
Yung tumulong sa amin, yung PDEA, yun ang nagbigay sa amin ng PNA para makapagsaka. Sana hindi mawala yung tulong nila sa amin kasi matagal pa kami maka-recover. Nasira talaga yung namin rito, kampuhayan namin. Salamat nga sa kanila kasi nakatulong sila sa amin.
Si Ansari ay isa lamang sa mga benepisyaryo ng Special Area for Agricultural Development o SAAD na isa sa mga special programs ng Department of Agriculture o DA, katuwang ang World Food Program o WFP. Tulad ni Ansari, isa rin sa mga nakabenepisyo sa SAAD si Yusuf Basal na nagsasaka naman ng mais.
Buti nga, dumating yung DA, binigyan namin ng mga abon, yung mga mais, palay, lahat binigay nila sa amin. Naitanim namin lahat.
Nang dahil sa SAAD at Food Security Convergence ng DA at WFP at ibang ahensya at organisasyon, maraming mga magsasaka ang muling nakabalik sa kanilang lugar at naipagpatuloy ang kanilang nakagawian. Ngunit iba naman ang naidulot ng Marawi Siege kay Noraisa Ali, isang dating private school teacher. Nang dahil aniya sa malagim na pangyayari, ay hindi na siya muling nakapagturo at nagkahiwa-hiwalay din sila ng kanyang pamilya.
Kasi iba na kasi yung buhay natin, sir, dati. At saka ngayon, kung dati, kung ano yung gusto mong kainin, nakakain mo. Pero ngayon wala na. Hiwa-hiwalay na yung pamilya, katulad nung anak ko, nandun sa Manila. Sa kuya ko, wala sa amin. Di mo alam yung kung ano yung gagawin mo. Kaya nga, laking pasalamat namin nung dumating itong tulong na yung sa beach tibor. Talagang laking tulong talaga. Talagang laking tulong itong binigay ng government, itong World Food Program. Kasi ngayon, mayroon ba silang binibigay na bigas? So, ilang buwan yun? May isang buwan. So, ang laking tulong talaga. Tapos ngayon, nangyayari pag mayroon kaming inaani doon sa mga namin. So, nabibinta namin. So, pwede din doon kami kumukuha ng namin, araw-araw na kinakain. Tulad ng sa isla. So, laking tulong talaga. Kaya laking pasalamat namin sa government sa ginawa nilang ganito.
Tulad ng iba pang biktima ng Marawi Siege, wala ring naisalbang mga kagamitan at ari-arian si Noraisa at ang kanyang pamilya. Pero sa tulong ng DA at WFP, pinilit na rin ni Noraisa na makabangon sa pamamagitan ng pagsasaka ng gulay.
The National Food Authority vows to ensure it will sell affordable rice from local farmers next year. Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol says this is possible through the passage of the Rice Tariffication Bill. Piñol says refraining from rice importation will also stop corruption by NFA personnel who are asking for bribes in exchange for issuing import permits. The government plans to allocate 7 billion pesos for local palay procurement. Soldiers from North and South Korea jointly verified the pull-out of guard posts across the border inside the demilitarized zone. North and South Korea withdrew weapons and troops from 11 guard posts under the military agreement signed by defense chiefs of the two Koreas during the Pyongyang summit in September. Seoul and Pyongyang decided to preserve one guard post each for their historical value. President Moon Jae-in watched the live coverage of the on-site verification and received briefing by military commanders. In sports, Alaska and Magnolia are now tied at 2 wins each in the PBA Governors Cup Finals. Alaska held off Magnolia in Game 4 to even the finals Wednesday night at Smart Araneta Coliseum. Mike Harris, who was named Best Import, led the Aces with 34 points and 22 rebounds. Chris Banchero also pulled up Alaska with 17.6 rebounds and 5 assists. Best player of the conference, Paul Lee, added 14 points and 8 rebounds for Magnolia. Romeo Travis had 29 points and 13 rebounds. Meanwhile, Alaska head coach Alex Compton claimed that Banchero and Harris were also punched in the testicles. Despite the incident, Compton commended his players for keeping their cool. The pivotal Game 5 is on Friday night still at the Araneta Coliseum. With the Bangsamoro organic law nearly in place, the COMELEC looks into the petition of 2 barangays in Zamboanga City to be part of the new Bangsamoro region. More on this from Maricor Zapata.
Zamboanga City officials appeared before the Commission on Elections on Friday to oppose the inclusion of 2 Muslim barangays in next month's plebiscite for the Bangsamoro organic law. The COMELEC Anbank held a hearing to tackle the so-called resolutions of barangays Busay and Landagua, both on Sacol Island. The officials of Busay and Landagua disowned the resolutions that purportedly sought to be part of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. The officials of Barangay Busay claimed their signatures on the petition were forged, while the councilors of Landagua said they were made to believe that it was the request for the construction of a water system and solar panels. Zamboanga City 1st District Congressman Celso Lobregat led the opposition to joining the Bangsamoro Autonomous Government. Mayor Maria Isabel Climaco Salazar echoed Lobregat's opinion. Salazar and Lobregat were accompanied by Zamboanga City 2nd District Congressman Manix Dalipe, several city councilors, and City Legal Counsel Jesus Carbon Jr. in the COMELEC hearing. Aside from the authenticity of the 2 barangay resolutions, there was also the question on whether the barangays and the city are contiguous to the BOL delineated territory. 2 other local barangays have also reportedly filed pro-BOL plebiscite resolutions with the city's COMELEC office. The COMELEC is now evaluating the documents. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Maricor Zapata.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Let's have another look at today's top stories.
President Duterte accepts the people's call to attend the turnover of the Balangiga Bells in Eastern Samar. Senators expect the proposed 2019 national budget to be passed by January next year. PDEA officials filed charges against those involved in the smuggling of 6.8 billion pesos worth of shabu. And the Agriculture Department vows to provide affordable rice from local farmers next year.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And only 12 more days to go before it's finally Christmas. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day.